Sarah Martin was born in a small but picturesque town in France, the kind of town where the streets are lined with cafes, flower shops, and bakeries that smell like fresh croissants every morning. She grew up in a comfortable home. Her parents were not rich in the way you see in magazines, but they lived well. Her father was a school principal, a man respected by the community for his wisdom and calm demeanor. Her mother ran a boutique that sold handmade clothing, carefully stitched with patience and care. From the outside, Sarah's life looked good. She had a warm bed, 3 meals a day, and parents who loved her. But comfort doesn't always mean happiness. As she grew older, Sarah began to notice something. Everyone around her seemed to have something of their own. Her father had his school, her mother had her boutique, her friends had their sports, their hobbies, their dreams already taking shape. Sarah had nothing. It wasn't that she was lazy or untalented. She had tried things, painting, photography, playing the piano, but none of them lit that spark inside her heart. She would start and then stop. Every time she quit, she would tell herself, maybe I'm just not the kind of person who's meant to have a thing. But deep down, she hated that thought. The turning point came on a rainy afternoon when she was 23. Sarah was sitting in her small bedroom, scrolling through videos online. She saw a young woman from another country baking a cake. Not just baking it, but filming it in such a way that you couldn't look away. The colors, the music, the movements, it was like watching art. Sarah didn't even want cake at that moment, but she watched the entire video from start to finish. Then she watched another and another. Something inside her lit up. You see, Sarah had always loved cake. Not just eating it, but the idea of it. The way a cake could be soft and light or rich and heavy. The way it could be decorated like a masterpiece. The way it could make a child smile or make a grown man close his eyes in pure joy. She remembered being a little girl, standing on a stool in the kitchen while her grandmother measured flour, butter, and sugar. She remembered licking the spoon when no one was watching, but she had never thought about baking as her thing. The more she thought about it, the more it made sense. Baking combined the things she secretly loved: creativity, beauty, and the chance to make people happy. And so that rainy afternoon, Sarah made a decision. She would bake her first cake. Not for a party, not for a customer, just for herself. Her parents were surprised when they heard the clinking of bowls and the hum of the oven in the kitchen. They were used to Sarah keeping to herself, not making much noise. But here she was, whisking eggs like her life depended on it. She didn't have professional tools, just an old mixing bowl, a whisk, and a small oven that had seen better days. But when she pulled that cake out, something happened. She looked at it and felt proud. It wasn't perfect. It leaned a little to one side. The icing was a bit messy, but it was hers. That night, she cut 2 slices for her parents. Her father smiled as he took a bite and said, "You made this?" Her mother laughed and said, "Sarah, this is actually really good." Those simple words planted a seed in her heart. Still, baking for herself was one thing. Sharing it with the world was another. At first, she hesitated to post anything online. She had seen the polished, perfect videos from other bakers. Who would care about hers? But then she remembered that girl in the video she had watched weeks ago, the one who made her stop scrolling. It wasn't the perfection that made her watch, it was the story. And Sarah thought, if my story can make someone stop scrolling, maybe that's enough. So she set up her phone on a stack of books in her kitchen and started recording. She didn't have fancy lighting. She didn't have a high-end camera, but she had her personality, her hands working with care, and her kitchen filled with the smell of vanilla. She spoke softly to the camera, explaining what she was doing. She laughed when she made a mistake. She kept it real. The first video she posted got only a handful of views, but she didn't stop. She baked another cake the next day, filmed it, and posted it. Then another, and another. Something magical started to happen. People began leaving comments. Not just about the cake, but about her. They liked the way she talked. They liked the way her videos felt cozy, almost like sitting in the kitchen with an old friend. Before long, even people who didn't care about cake were watching her videos. They said it was the way she told little stories while baking, or the way her hands moved slowly and gently, or the soft clinking of her utensils that felt relaxing. What Sara didn't know yet was that this was the beginning of something much bigger. She was still baking in her parents' kitchen, still using that old oven. But now, she had something she had never had before, a growing audience, and the first spark of a dream that was truly her own. At first, Sara didn't think much of it. A few people watching her videos, that was nice. Comments from strangers saying her baking was so calming or so beautiful to watch, that was encouraging. But she still thought of it as just a hobby, a way to fill her days with something she loved. Then one evening, as she was cleaning up her kitchen, her phone buzzed with a notification. One of her videos had suddenly taken off. Not just a few hundred views, tens of thousands. By the next morning, that number had grown to hundreds of thousands. People were sharing it on social media, tagging their friends, saying things like, "You have to watch this girl. She makes baking feel like magic." Sara was stunned. She replayed the video, wondering what made it so different from the others. But the truth was simple. It wasn't that she had done something extraordinary. It was that people had connected with her. The way she tilted her head while sprinkling powdered sugar, the tiny laugh when she dropped a strawberry on the counter, the gentle background music. Her baking wasn't just about the cake. It was an experience. From that moment on, Sara decided to take it seriously. She started learning about video editing, not in a professional way, but in a way that felt right for her. She learned how to cut between close-up shots of batter swirling in the bowl and wide shots of her decorating the cake. She began adding little stories into her videos, memories of her grandmother, tips she'd learned from trial and error, funny moments when things went wrong. Still, it wasn't easy. People often think that once you go viral, the road is smooth, but Sara had to push through the pressure. She had to keep posting regularly, even when she was tired. She had to deal with the occasional negative comment from strangers who said her cakes were too simple or not professional enough. But instead of letting it break her, she reminded herself of why she started, not to impress professionals, but to make baking feel warm and inviting. Months passed, and her audience kept growing. People began sending her messages saying her videos helped them through hard times. A young mother wrote that she had started baking with her daughter every weekend because of Sara's videos. An elderly man said he watched her videos to relax before bed. Sara realized she wasn't just teaching people how to bake, she was giving them moments of joy, peace, and connection. With her growing popularity came new opportunities. Local cafes invited her to collaborate on cake menus. Small baking brands sent her ingredients to try. She even got an email from a popular French lifestyle magazine asking to feature her in an article titled "The Baker Who Captured France's Heart." But Sara's biggest dream was still hidden in the back of her mind, a dream she had almost been too scared to say out loud. She wanted her own bakery, a place where she could welcome people, serve them cakes fresh from the oven, and create the same cozy feeling her videos gave online. One evening, sitting at the kitchen table with her parents, she finally said it, "I think I want to open my own bakery." Her father smiled, proud but cautious. "It's a big step, Sara, but if it's what you want, we'll support you." So, she began planning. She looked for a small shop space in town. She met with suppliers, she tested recipes over and over. She painted the walls herself, decorated with warm lights and wooden shelves filled with jars of flour and sugar. And when the bakery finally opened, she called it Chez Sara. Simple, personal, and hers. The first morning she was nervous. She had no idea if anyone would come. But as she unlocked the door, she saw a line forming outside. Not just locals, but people who had traveled from other towns, viewers who had watched her videos for months and now wanted to taste her cakes in real life. It was overwhelming. Customers came in with smiles, some bringing flowers, others asking for autographs. The sound of the espresso machine filled the air, mixing with the soft chatter of people enjoying their slices of cake. Sara moved from table to table, greeting everyone like old friends. Her online presence didn't just make her famous, it built a community. People felt they knew her, and in a way, they did. They had seen her grow from a girl with nothing of her own into a woman who had created something beautiful. In the months that followed, Chez Sara became more than a bakery. It was a place where couples came for dates, friends met to catch up, and strangers became friends over coffee and cake. Her story was featured on television, and she was invited to speak at events about creativity and following your passion. When she looked back, she realized the most important part wasn't the viral video, the followers, or even the bakery. It was that moment in her bedroom on a rainy afternoon when she had decided to try, just try, making that first cake. Sara often tells her audience now, you don't have to start with the perfect plan or the perfect tools. You just have to start, because sometimes the thing that changes your life begins in the smallest, simplest way. And so, from the girl who once thought she had nothing of her own, Sara Martin became the baker loved across France. Her cakes were delicious, yes, but it was her warmth, her authenticity, and her courage to share her passion that truly made her unforgettable.